It's crazy. It's fucking crazy. So just in case somebody steps into this video, Semitism is I'm very opposed to Semitism. I'm very anti-Semitism, and Semitism is supremacy, is Jewish supremacy. That's what it means. When you look up the word is Semitism means that you believe in or practice showing Jews favor. And I don't believe anybody deserves favor, so I'm anti anything that is supremacy. Anybody that walks around saying that, well, my people are better people and we deserve all the advantages because we were born to mothers who blah 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 blah, blah. All that bullshit. It's all bullshit. Anybody that claims supremacy over anybody else is a problem. So I'm just clearing that up. I know what words mean. Do you know what words mean? Have you bothered to look up the things you say you believe? Have you bothered to look into those things and question yourself as to why you believe what you believe? I'd be willing to bet you haven't. I'm watching this video today, and it's talking about, it's a whistleblower. He's a whistleblower coming out of the South Pole. And he's talking about the South Pole has weapons beyond our comprehension. And I absolutely believe that the system has weaponry beyond our comprehension. And he's talking about how there's the neutrino detector telescope. It's the largest telescope of its kind. And what this telescope does is it detects, it's his thing was that it's how they detect the signatures from spacecraft out in space. He called it the air traffic control, but for space. And he says that we know that there's all these UFOs out there and the blah blah and the blah blah and the blah blah. And to me, it's such fear propaganda nonsense. This guy, one of his things is like, well, I'm going to be a whistleblower, but I'm not going to give any names out. I'm not going to say any names. If I know that you're a piece of shit doing shitty things, I'm going to tell everybody. Your secrets are not safe with me. There are certain things where I'll weigh it out, But if it's something along those lines, like it's world-ending kind of shit, you better believe I'm going to out those people. Not this guy. And his whole thing, it's like, you actually think we can communicate with spaceships from other planets, but we can't cure cancer? Are you kidding? Do you know how stupid that is? My wife has a friend who has cancer in her family and gives herself regular breast exams and actually found a lump. And she hasn't been officially diagnosed or anything, but she knows that the lump wasn't there before, and now there's a lump, and it's hard and it's jagged, and she's concerned. So instead of doing your standard Western medicine, she's decided she wants to treat it with crazy snake oils, right? She's going to use the essential oil, the different essential oils and products that we have access to, or that she has access to, and we'll see what happens. I mean, I have a feeling this is going to be another one of those stories where, like, you can tell me all you want that I'm not allowed to say things, but I'm sorry, I've experienced it. I've experienced, my wife should be dead, but the oils fucking saved her. I've experienced that shit. I've experienced lots of crazy oil stories that would blow your mind, right? But to me, the major one is, my wife with her teeth. And how not only was she able to kill an infection that I would assume was days, weeks away from taking her life, but then keep it away and everything else involved in the thing. And it's not like she prayed. It's not like she had Western medicine along with the oils. She solely did the oils and fixed it.
And then went back to her ways, and the shit came back.
What are you talking about?
Oh, are you talking about you were talking about me? So.
Yeah. Who are you talking about? Your mom?
Mom.
Yeah. I mean, her mom should be dead too.
Cancer.
Her mom literally had cancer so bad that the doctors were like, well, you should, plan on dying this year. Do what you need to do, live your life. Not much more we can do for you, so just plan on dying. And so then she finally gave in and was like, all right, Ange, what do you have for me? And within weeks, she went back to the doctor, and the doctor was like, did you pray a lot or something? And she was like, no, I did the oils, and here I am. And that was like 4 years ago. That was pre-COVID. And then, she stopped doing her oil stuff, and lo and behold, the cancer came back.
Metastasized to her lungs.
And now it's worse. And now it's one of those things where I don't think we can do anything about it. Maybe.
Well, no, I got her back doing the shit again, and she's still in remission. Should lead the horse to water. That's all you can do.
That was what Charles was saying the other day, basically, I can get mad, I can do this, I can do that, but at the end of the day, she's her own person, and I have to trust her, and, it is what it is. Like, it's nothing I do or talk about requires much of people, right? I don't require you to have a whole bunch of faith. I really come from an evidence-based or a sense-based perspective. What makes sense? Like, if you could, and Ange will say, well, that's how Christians look at their stuff, that's what makes sense. Yeah, but the thing is, yours only makes sense when you want it to. When things contradict what you believe makes sense, you just write it off. Whereas with me and the whole TV show theory, that actually incorporates everything else. That the idea of UFOs and shit, that's all part of it. That's easily the transportation between outside the dome and inside the dome. Seems pretty obvious to me. But like at this point, it's like I've it would be I wish I would have figured this out. See, before it was easier to keep, because I was allowed to have viewership and I was allowed to believe that everything was right there. I almost made it. By the way, TBG is getting played on a radio station. Might not be a big radio station, but it's a radio station.
In the U.S.?
No.
Germany?
No, in the UK somewhere. We'll see. But the I was allowed to believe in the American dream. I'm an American. If I believe in myself and I work hard and I sacrifice and I do whatever it takes I'm that person that everybody talks about wanting, right? Whenever you talk to I watched PBS made this documentary series on music not too long ago. I can't even remember what it was called now. But it was like pretty much the best documentary I've ever seen on music, and I've seen a lot of them. And they would talk to and interview people in the industry and whatnot. So, mention of not the same old shit. Not only is our subject matter different, our style is different, both musically, lyrically, everything is different about us. And it works. I've been sending emails out all over the place. And I can't tell you how many of those emails are actually taken seriously. How many people read the emails and then check out the songs that are, I don't know. I assume it's a very small percentage of the emails that are sent out. But the fact is, not just that there was another one too that was interested, but this radio station, what are they just like shitty music? Is that what that is? They only play shitty music, so that's why we fit in? But I was allowed to when I was conspiracy guy, I was allowed to achieve a certain level of success. And the last time I was allowed success, where my live feed was allowed to was allowed to reach what it could, which turned out to be 20,000 views by the time I was done. Most people, my wife included, don't really give that the credit and the thought that it should have. But for somebody like me, who was only allowed to get 100 views prior to, even less, in a lot of cases, 60 views, 20 views, to suddenly for 3 days go from I'm allowed to get 10,000 that turns into 12,000, 15,000 that turns into 18,000, and then 18,000 that turned into 20 some. That just doesn't happen. That's not just something that just for the blink of an eye, people were watching me and interested in what I was doing and sharing my shit and blah blah blah. That was the last time that this happened, and what happened was me allowing myself to be distracted by Tartaria. I had really started talking about Tartaria and wasn't talking about Israel. And it was mid video where I realized, like, holy shit, wait a minute, I've distracted myself. I haven't been talking about Israel. And immediately you saw numbers fall off. And when I was like, I'm not talking about this anymore, I'm going to go back to talking about Israel, the very next feed was nothing again. So whatever they they did for that brief second, where they took the governor off or whatever. Maybe they were running an experiment. I don't know. I looked at it like it was my reward. It was me being told, hey, we know you want to be conspiracy guys, so here, talk about this. We'll allow you to talk about this. As long as you're not talking about that, then you're allowed to exist. And I spoke about it. I mean, I talked this whole thing out like I'm doing right now as it was happening, realizing what the fuck it reminded me of Ken O'Keefe. It reminded me of when the Ken O'Keefe people shared my video. And it, you know, these people who had basically ignored me up until I started making videos about Ken O'Keefe missing, telling people to stop the conspiracy stuff, stop chemtrailing, stop all that stuff for right now, and let's work together to find where this, in my mind at the time, where the general was. I was willing to say Ken O'Keefe is the guy. I'm going to step back. I'm going to do what I can to get people to watch Ken O'Keefe. I think Ken is doing the shit. And that was back before you could go live. So I was making videos and uploading them, and these were getting 2, 3, 4,000 views on these one video daily. Just regular old videos that I'm putting out. Getting thousands of views every day, asking, where the fuck is Ken O'Keefe? What the hell, come on, soldiers. Come on, Team Goyam. This guy is actually telling the truth. He's the first guy I've seen that's actually telling the truth and isn't scared to talk about Israel, isn't scared to talk about the Jews. And lo and behold, he's been disappeared.
Breast cancer is the second highest cancer-related death worldwide. The treatment for breast cancer is chemotherapy. However,
chemotherapy causes breast cancer.
Of multi-drug resistance, unselected targets, and physiochemical problems suggest that chemotherapy treatment is ineffective.
Yep.
This is from a doctor's report.
And then go and find the sister report that says chemotherapy is safe and effective.
Therefore, there is a need to find better alternatives.
What's that doctor's name?
This is like actually MDPI. This is official.
Doesn't say who wrote it.
Journal.
Doesn't say who wrote it.
There's several doctors. Mohammed Adam Mustafa, Iksan Guzwenrivo, Aid Zurotan, Nur Kasaira, Karul Ikram, and Mukhtaridi.
That sure doesn't sound like a bunch of Jews.
Department of Pharmaceutical Analysis and
it could be Israelis.
Medicinal Chemistry, Faculty of Pharmacy, Research Center for Applied Zoology, National Research and Innovation Agency, Department of Biological Pharmacy, Faculty of Pharmacy, Institute of Biological Sciences, Research Collaboration Center for Radiopharmaceutical Theranostic, National Research and Innovation Agency. Like it's,
No, I get it. I wasn't asking for the legitimacy of it. I mean, as far as the credentials and shit go, I was asking whether it was put out by Jews or not.
It's mostly Indians.
Mostly Indians and
Eastern
Arabs,
Indians.
Muslims. Doesn't sound like it's a bunch of Jews, and go figure, it's the thing that goes. Like, see, this is, I'm let's read in a second, but this is what I'm always trying to show you. Is that you don't realize it until you start looking at the small things more than anything. Yeah, all the big things are manipulated clearly, but you won't. It's harder for you to accept that when you haven't looked at the small things. And in something like this, when my wife is just randomly going through and finds this paper, this peer journal about how ineffective chemotherapy is, it's just a coincidence that it's all Indians? Is that what you're willing to say? Because for me, it would be coincidence if I didn't if it wasn't everything. But when you look and you find out everything sort of goes this way, it's more than coincidence. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm scanning through to see. I mean, a lot of it's medical jargon. So.
Right. Well, if you find something good, please read it. I mean, this is, I posted on this thing, this random Instagram thing. I posted Free Palestine. And at this point, it has like 300 likes on it. I don't know how many comments. And it's like, maybe let's say it's 200 comments. It's about 50-50 as far as, support. Maybe even less. Maybe it's like 25-75. And the with the comments, 25 is positive, 75 is negative, but 100% of the negative ones are Jews. And it Steins and Kleins and it's just insane. And it's when you have to listen to the truth that they're telling you, not just what you see, right? Because when you listen to a Michael Rappaport or a Jerry Seinfeld or a John Lovitz, they are the ones that are associating Jews with the genocide. They're the ones that are making it all one thing that's not separated into, yes, there's the Jews and the Zionists, and it's the Zionists. That they don't do that. They're the ones that keep saying, I heard Rappaport referred to the Israeli hostages as our hostages. And this, I mean, it's like, how fucked up are you? First of all, I don't think October 7th happened the way they say it did. But even if it did, I see this comment all the time. Well, no, Israel is just reacting. Israel is just responding. They were attacked first. Hamas attacked Israel first. October 7th, don't you? Then you hear 1,200, around 1,200 people in it. See, this is the problem too, is like, I know a lot more than most of you do. I know a lot more of the details than most of you do. And so most of you haven't made that connection where you see that almost every time it's reported as about 1,200 people in Israel were killed. And it's like, you just don't that's not how Israelis refer to themselves. In any other situation, when they're talking about a group of Israelis or whatever, like with the protests that happened every week, they weren't saying, tens of thousands of people in Israel are protesting. It would be tens of thousands of Israelis are coming out to protest. That's how they refer to themselves. So when they say that phrase, it's a phrase that's used over and over again. Around 1,200 people in Israel were killed. And then you also know that the Israelis claimed initially that first day that they had killed over 1,500 Hamas in Israel that day. So when they say around 1,200 people, they're literally telling the truth. It's just how how it's framed in that in that paragraph or whatever, and then how you have been programmed to receive it. You know, like I say, I think most of you just haven't. Most of you haven't been paying attention, and when these people are saying things to me, it's not like I can sit here and type all this shit out and, well, we have to go back to this time, then we have to look at this and we have to look at that. We have to look at how Israel responded to the dead body being stolen and how, most people, I've seen the one where it's, Israel's just responding to the Hamas attack on October 7th. And it's like, well, if you're going to look at it from that standpoint, the Hamas attack was just in response to the 242 people, innocent civilians, that had been killed so far that year by Israel. It was being touted as the deadliest year for the Palestinians and since 2006 or whatever. And you go, and then the thousands and thousands of Palestinians that were taken hostage prior to October 7th. And that's just 2023. That's things being separated by arbitrary fucking bullshit. If you just look at how many people they kill each year, it's thousands of people innocent civilians have been killed by the Israelis. It's millions of people since 1948. And that there's finally a response. Hamas is finally responding, and they killed 1,200 people, around 1,200 people. The whole thing is like, it's like stupid, right? I'm supposed to believe that initially there was 253 Israeli hostages being held that were just taken. I have to believe that Hamas somehow stormed the most heavily surveilled area in that region, in one of the most heavily surveilled areas in the world. They somehow stormed this one particular place where there doesn't happen to be footage of it. Even though it's this heavily surveilled area, there's no footage. Well, there's very little footage. And what you do see is stuff that, I mean, you wouldn't even need good actors to pull it off. It's pretty bad, actually. The one thing I always look at whenever you see people on TV and they're crying is look at their face. Is their face puffy? Is it red? Is there snot coming out of their nose? Is there tears? But snot and their breath is, these are physiological fucking things that you don't control, that happen to you. And they happen to everybody when they cry. But I'm supposed to believe that Israel, that there's 253 hostages, and instead of doing everything they can possibly do to get those hostages out, like how they were willing to go to war to get the dead body back that was stolen, and there was a deadline, and I'm supposed to believe that they seemingly don't care about those hostages, and even more so that they're going to bomb the entire area where those hostages may or may not be being held without any thought. And when told, hey, we're going to start killing these hostages if you keep bombing us, instead of saying, no, 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 that's not necessary, let's work something out, Israel was like, fuck that, we're going to bomb you even more. And they did. And still no hostages were killed, or, like, none of it makes sense. It just, it's all like, I don't understand how everybody falls for it. I don't even think you need to be following this story for any longer time than October 7th. There's 250 supposed hostages. I mean, they've let go like 100 or whatever, but initially there's 250 hostages, and Israel is bombing the entire area from the sky. What? How do they know they're not hitting hostages? Israel keeps saying that it's not their fault that they're killing so many innocent women and children. It's because Hamas is using them as human shields. And when they say that, what they're saying is these Hamas are hiding amongst the civilians, effectively shielding them. So it's okay that Israel kills all the people because they were killing the Hamas guy that was hiding, using those Israelis as shields. I'm still waiting for the video of the Israelis suffering in any of this to hit the web. I can't tell you how many videos I've seen of crying parents either over the bag, or the bag, you can see the face or the, parts of the kid, or videos of kids wandering around with this fucking this shell shock look on their face, and there's no pain. They're just crying, and they just don't know what to do because everybody they know and love is dead. And like videos of Palestinians exploding, videos of bombs being dropped and buildings exploding, and just every sort of horrendous video you can imagine. Videos of IDF, Israel Defense Force soldiers kicking in the door of a bakery where they're baking bread to feed the people, and attacking the bakers and chasing them out and then lining them up. And I've seen tons of those videos. I haven't seen a single video that makes Israel look like the victim. I haven't seen a single video that is anything other than that orchestrated bullshit. That reporter that happened to be, we're gonna cut to the reporter just as the munition rounds are going off around her, and we're gonna see her run, and the cameraman's gonna be so good at his job that he can run. He's experiencing something in real time. He could be dying, but he's running with the camera and somehow able to keep it on the reporter's face, even as they fall to the ground. Like they practiced it a bunch of times. I mean, it's really weird because, like, why am I doing this? You know, my wife is in that camp because of the lack of positivity that's come from it all. Why do I continue doing this? And you know, I'm allowed to have 2 viewers, 3 if I'm lucky. And those 2 viewers, I'm pretty sure, are Israeli trolls, pedophile trolls. And I wish I could explain it to you guys. Like, to me, I can explain it, but I guess the explanation isn't fanciful enough for people to get behind it. I don't know. But to me, I don't care if it's super far away or it's people I don't know or it's even something that I more than likely can't affect. It's wrong. You know, it's fucking wrong. I don't care if it's, you know, if it's some dude I hate. It could be a fucking, it could be somebody that has a Confederate flag out in front of their house, and I've had words with them before, and blah, blah, blah. If I see that their house is on fire, I'm going to call the fucking fire department. I'm going to call the police. I don't want, you know, I don't want them to die, especially the victims in that situation, which might be the kids or the animals or the neighbors whose houses may be affected by it, or the neighborhood whose property values decrease because of it, or, you know, or the firemen that might be at risk going in there to do something about it. You know, all of those things are reasons why, like, I don't care if I don't like you. I don't necessarily like the Palestinian way of life. The you know, anytime you have a religious leadership and most of the people are religious, I'm not going to be a fan of it. And Palestine is a good mix of Christians and Muslims. You're never going to hear about the tremendous amount of Christians that are being killed because, as United States citizens who are mostly Christian, you might be upset by that. And it really immediately leads to the question, well, where the fuck is the Vatican? Why isn't the Vatican stepping in when, I mean, I don't understand why the Vatican isn't stepping in and condemning the loss of life, regardless of what their beliefs are, as this supposedly moral higher ground, as the moral representative. You know, even if those are Muslims, those are potential Christians. And a lot of those are Christians. So where is the Vatican in all of this? The only thing I've ever heard the Vatican, the church, the Pope say regarding this whole thing is when they condemned the October 7th attack, that Hamas was in the wrong for attacking poor, defenseless Israel. I mean, the fact that this was able to even happen in the first place should show you that it's something else going on. You know, they immediately were saying, this is our 9/11. This is our 9/11. Hello? Can anybody hear me? Oh my goodness, we are in such peril. This is our 9/11. You guys remember 9/11, right? You remember how that affected you. You remember how many of you lost someone, right? And it stirs up all these emotions, especially if you've been somebody trying to get answers from it for the last 20 fucking years. You know how 9/11 affects you, right? Well, this is our 9/11. Are you getting that association? Are we eliciting a response from you by connecting it to your tragedy? Because that's our goal. But they're telling the truth. This is another example of them telling you the truth in a very carefully crafted way. It's absolutely 9/11 because 9/11 should have never happened. The idea that 9/11 happened and they were successful 3 out of 4 times, aren't we like the greatest military nation in the world? And again, it comes down to, I guess, just your willful stupidity. I don't know. But like when I say things like the Pentagon is a G.I. Joe wet dream, that the Pentagon has all sorts of defenses around it. You know, trees that move, that bend over and missile fucking pop, missiles come out, missile launch, you know, guns, all kinds of shit around. It's the largest military open military base in the world that we know of, that we're allowed to know of. You know, am I supposed to believe that the Pentagon has no defensive capabilities? Do you know how stupid that is? And then you have the Norman Mineta stuff that where he was literally under oath. First of all, you know how stupid that is? Do you promise to tell the truth? I know it's going to get you in trouble, but you promise, right? Because if you tell the truth, you're going to go to prison. And if you lie, we have no case. So you'll go home and everything will be fine. You promise to tell the truth though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know how stupid that is? I promise to tell who the truth? The system? Oh, right, because they've earned that from me. The system really loves me and looks out for me, right? Looks out for my people. No. But Norman Mineta was under oath. And he was talking about how, for some reason, Bush wasn't available at the time. And they were in a bunker of some sort. And he said a young military man kept coming into the room and giving updates. The plane is 50 miles out. The plane is 25 miles out. In the last time he came in, he said the plane is 15 miles out, or maybe 10 miles out. Do the orders still stand? And he said, Cheney whipped his head around with this angry look on his face and said, did you hear anything to the contrary? Of course the order still stands. And it basically the order to let everything go through, not the order to shoot it down. Because if there would have been an order to shoot down the planes, they would have had to explain something. The fact that there wasn't a plane to be used. There wasn't a plane to shoot. Well, there wasn't a passenger airliner jet. That whatever it was that launched that missile that hit the Pentagon, well, they couldn't shoot that shit down. What are they going to do? But, you know, it's a there's no conspiracy theory there. Norman Mineta was a Secretary of Defense, I believe, at the time. Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense, can't remember. But he was there, and he's one of them, and he was like, you could tell he was deeply disturbed by it. The show just said the wheels of bureaucracy are ridiculously slow. And we all accept that, right? We all understand that when it comes to the government and stuff, that stuff could drag on for years in trial. Stormy Daniels, her shit's been going on for fucking decade now. Almost. Her lawsuit with the Trumps and blah, blah, blah. However, just before COVID, Stormy countersued for defamation of character and something else. And guess what? That shit was immediately rejected. It got kicked up to the court, and the court kicked it right out. They were able to move that around as quickly as they wanted to. Whenever they're passing shit about giving Israel more money, that shit just fucking flies right through. That's the idea that government works slowly is a ruse. It's just another one of those programs to keep us in line. Well, I don't think I could afford to sue the government because they could just drag it out, and and that's it. That's how they kill so many lawsuits and so many objections to what they do, is they know the average person can't afford to drag something out like that. The court fees, the lawyer costs, all that shit. It's a system that takes care of itself. And so that brings me back to the point, why do I do this? The average person is going to fight me on most of the things I say. They might jokingly say a lot of the same shit. But as soon as I start being like, well, it's actually real, let's talk about it seriously, I'm the bad guy. And the average person not only fights with me, like they fight with me in a really mean and childish way. They don't say, you're wrong about this part, let's talk about it. You're wrong about that, let's talk about it. Just like Israel always does. It's not about, let's figure it out and make things better. It's, guy, you're not allowed to talk about it. Ginger can come over and say whatever she wants to you. You don't respond back to her. I'm the bad guy. I'm the bad guy for telling the truth. I'm the bad guy for asking questions. I asked questions I didn't know I wasn't allowed to ask. And when it comes to my family, because I'm really good at perceiving things, this truck that has a I saw that my grandma didn't want me to ask the question or push it further. So I stopped asking the question. Why am I doing this? Why can't I stop? It's like I'm addicted to it. I'm addicted to wanting things to be better. I'm addicted to standing against hypocrisy and tyranny and all that shit. And that's me, my entire life since I was a kid. I might not have known it, but that's what it was. I didn't get in trouble for picking fights and starting fires and stealing shit and all that. The majority of the time I got in trouble was for either talking out of turn, being a nuisance, or standing up for myself, or not even myself nearly as much as somebody else is getting, the short end of the stick, and I'm like, hey, why are you doing that? This is, I saw this comedian yesterday, just a small clip, and they were like, this guy destroys COVID in 1 minute. And he said, COVID is the only thing that you're forced into, and you're not allowed to ask about it. He said, imagine if you were gonna get a car. You were in the market for a car, and somebody was like, "Oh yeah, here, go get your car here, but don't look into it at all." And you were like, "Yeah, but how am I supposed to know anything about the car, the price, and all that?" And he said, "Well, trust the salesman. He has your best interest in mind." Nobody would even begin to entertain that shit. If I told you to go buy a car and just walk in there and be like, "All right, salesman, tell me what car to buy, and you give me the price. I'm not going to ask a single question. I'm just going to do whatever you say to do." Who's going to do that? We wouldn't be friends anymore if I suggested that you do that. If I insisted that you do that. If you didn't do that, I started ridiculing you and ostracizing you and all that shit. I saw a video too the other day. It said, never forget that this is who we were, and it was showing all of these COVID overdoers. And it was like one shot was this guy who was getting a coffee through the drive-through, and the coffee is sitting on the here you go ledge, and the guy is just spraying it with disinfectant all the way, spraying the coffee he's then going to put his mouth on. That has the little hole in the top, right? So the spray goes all in that hole. And this guy, that's the length that he, and then that's probably the guy that gets sick and blames COVID. Has nothing to do with all that cleaner you've been ingesting, that disinfectant you've been ingesting. All the people that made like makeshift body suits and shit like that. I mean, it's embarrassing that even we had to participate in shit like this. We actually did one Christmas in my fucking mother-in-law's garage. While her sister, her mother, and her father, stepfather, whatever, they sat in a fucking, they had masks on. We all sat in coats and shit like that. And I even think we had to have masks on too, didn't we? Angela didn't, but.
No, we did not run that.
But we sat in the garage. As much as we resisted the bullshit involved in order to see family at a time where we thought we might not get this opportunity again, we had to participate. Angela's grandmother, we have no idea what actually happened to her. We just have to trust what the system says. Because we weren't allowed to see her. We weren't allowed to see someone like she was a prisoner. Or that we were prisoners, one of the two, or we're both prisoners. This is an open facility. No bars anywhere. And we weren't allowed to interact with our family member. Yeah, I'm glad Papa died and didn't have to see it, but I wonder what he would have said about all this. I bet he would have been somebody that took it too seriously, honestly. I bet he would have been a fucking overdoer. What an insane last few years it's been. And you know what? I'm really glad that it happened when it did, as far as my kids go. Because for the most part, they don't even really remember it. They do, but they don't. I mean, how much of second grade do you remember? Third grade do you remember? Pieces of it, but these guys, they were young, and they weren't like in their teenagers. I can't imagine how difficult that was for the teenagers. Prom and all that other kind of shit. God, that had to be rough.
Yeah, the ones that didn't get it.
But then you think about, like, not just that, but the psychological damage that was done to all these people. These people who are now, go figure. You know, a lot of these people these kids that were negatively affected by what they did with COVID, they're now the fucking protesters at the schools. These are the kids that were stuck inside and were stuck on the internet for a fucking year. And guess what they stumbled across? Shit like me. Right? They came across something. And you're now seeing that same, those kids who are what? In their late teens, 18, 19, 20. These guys were 15, 16, 17 at the time. Imagine how bitter and the shit that they went through. Not just 2020. 2020 and early 21, it was at its extremes, but it's not like once the extreme went away, it was just fine. I don't even know. I don't know what high schools looked like when we went back. Did they have partitions everywhere? Was it,
They had to sit in their desks, and some of them had square little plexiglass
Right.
phone booths,
Right.
but that's in the big schools.
And then, how many of those schools that spent all that money, did they spend the money? Like, again, I don't know. The schools, did they have to spend money to build all these different things, or were there these grants they were given?
They got reimbursed, yeah.
Right. So all that money that was spent, are they then going to take it all down? Are they going to spend the money to take it down? Especially if they don't get reimbursed for this stuff? I don't know. But, when you're seeing the protesters, I mean, even on my Free Palestine post where I'm getting all of this pushback, most of it is telling me that I shouldn't be saying these things. Or fuck Palestine, blow Palestine up, blah, 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 blah. But none of it is none of it denies any of the points that are then made. People will say things and then I'll respond to it. And it's always like they never deny it. They try to switch the focus or justify things with, well, that guy punched me in the face, so I happen to have he hit me first, so I had my baseball bat and I just beat him into the fucking ground with the baseball bat. Long after he was immobilized and couldn't, he was actually immobilized after the first shot. His brains were leaking out and stuff. But I just kept hitting him and hitting him and hitting him because, he hit me first. Like, that's the Israel mentality. Anyway, looks like I'm severely compromised again. So, you fuckers have a great day. And you pedophiles, kill yourself. Do it. It's the best thing you could do for the entire world. It's the best thing you can do for yourself.